we're going to take out the AC units. So we have two. We got this one on the side, we got one in the back. The way they work, there's this big AC part up here, and then there's a hose that runs all the way to the back of the bus where there's a big fan mounted underneath the bus. That stuff runs to the engine compartment where there's two AC compressors, which makes cold air, goes to those fans, pulls the air out here. So we have to take these out. We are going to take out the fans in the back, and we're going to take out the AC compressors up front. This is supposed to be like foam, and it just disintegrates.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Alright, so we're about to take this AC unit out. Important to note what these lines are. This is just some kind of vent, so nothing to worry about there. This is just electrical wiring, the blue, so nothing to worry about there. These two are Freon. Our system has been completely drained of Freon. If you're doing this yourself at home, you gotta make sure a licensed professional takes out the Freon because it's bad for the ozone. It's like a gas or something, so don't do it yourself. Make sure you properly dispose of it. Alright, so we did have a mechanic who took out the compressors in the engine bay, but that was only because they were already there to remove the Freon. It's really not that hard to do yourself, so you just have to disconnect a couple of tubes, unscrew a few bolts, and then you can loosen them up, remove the belt from the engine, and pull them off. Fairly straightforward. You'll see a couple of bolts holding the compressors on, and then you just have to take them out. Cool. Okay, so this AC unit was held in by these two things. These plates are riveted into the ceiling. Then you got these two bolts coming down. This side are supposed to be like channel nuts. When we started loosening this side, the channel nut actually bent, so it started spinning. But these are on little sliders, you can see. So we pushed the AC unit, which kind of forced it back into its little slot, and then we were able to loosen the bolt, which was great, so we didn't have to cut it. But this is what it looks like underneath. So 4 bolts holding it up. We took the little panel off so we could see better. Then you got to figure out what to do with these little rails. We tried to drill out the rivets or grind them off, whatever we could do to get this off. In our experience, it didn't come out that great. It was really hard to get the rivets out. It kind of bent the sheet metal. There's still some bolts in the roof that I can't really do anything about. That's not a problem for some people because they take the whole first panel of sheet metal off to change their insulation or whatever. We decided not to do that. We're gonna leave our normal bus insulation in the roof. So we're kind of stuck with this. We've decided to leave the second bracket just so that we don't have to worry about it looking ugly. But be aware, if you want to try and take this out, it can be pretty difficult, so keep that in your mind.
Okay, first AC unit is out. Time to get the second one. Right, Chris Kelly?
Let's do it.
Let's get it out.
Alright, so whoever installed this, dweebs, put this gigantic bolt here, and there's actually this lip that goes all around it, so it made it like physically impossible for me to take it off with the tools I had, which is a normal wrench or a socket. So basically now I have to like hand crank each of these so that the bolt comes far enough down to get my ratchet deep socket on there, and I had to actually bend this metal piece up so that I could actually get this here. So, really annoying, tedious. AC units are off. Whoop. To the back. Rear AC, the wires, they come right through the floor, right here. This. So, trash, other Freon tube. Okay. Alright, so we're going to take these big fans out. There's one on each side. This is for the rear AC unit. The one on the other side is for the front. This line, which goes to this blue compressor, is coming directly from the AC unit. The other line goes all the way up to the front in the engine bay where the compressor runs. So we're just going to disconnect these wires, we're going to disconnect these tubes, and then we're going to unbolt this, and then hopefully we can just take it out. Definitely don't advise you cutting things in your engine often, but I'm just cutting this so that it's easier for me to pull the hoses out. This is the ones that went to the air conditioning compressors, so you don't need them, so we're gonna remove them. Alright, so here we're just using a reciprocating saw through the grates to cut the bolts holding up the fans. We did this because it was really hard to get off the bolts using an extension, and we thought this would be a lot more efficient. Alright, so lessons learned on removing the AC units. First and foremost, if you're not going to plan to save the wires and the tubing, just cut them. It's going to save you a lot of time. Next thing is, this isn't that hard, it's not very difficult, so don't be afraid. It just takes a little bit of time to kind of figure out where everything is. I would say the hardest part is just tracing the wires and the tubing all the way from the different AC units to the engine bay and to wherever they go. So just take your time. It's not super hard, but try and make sure you're cutting the right wires when you do. Before you do anything, make sure that you get a professional to drain your Freon. It is illegal to drain that into the atmosphere, so you want to make sure it is professionally removed. And the last thing is to improvise if you need. A couple of the bolts and things that we tried to get off were pretty hard to remove. They were not quite the way we thought they were going to be, so we had to cut them off, things like that. So just keep in mind, it's never going to be perfect, and you might have to improvise a little bit.